Hello, my name is Irene, and this week in my diversity class we were asked to do a video and answer 4 questions. So I'm just going to go ahead and start off with question number 1, and it actually pertains to a case that happened in 1997. It is referred to as the University and Community College System of Nevada versus Farmer. Mrs. Yvette Farmer was a white female who applied for a position and was actually a finalist in the applicants. However, the job got offered to an African American male. Fast forward to a year later, Mrs. Farmer was offered a job and was getting paid about $7,000 less than the African American male. The University of Community College System of Nevada claims that they were acting upon a minority bonus program, and because the university at that time only had a very small percentage of black faculty members. And so this is how the African American male was able to obtain a higher salary payment that was even in the job description at the time that Mrs. Farmer applied. So Mrs. Farmer decided to take action and sue the university, in which initially she won and was awarded $40,000. However, there was an appeal by the university, and the ruling or verdict was overturned. This was from the local state Supreme Court. Mrs. Farmer then tried to take it to the U.S. Supreme Court. However, it was denied, and so the ruling stuck that there was no wrongdoing to Mrs. Farmer. So the question is, what are my thoughts to defend or critique the ruling? And so my thoughts are that I think it's a great thing that the university realized that there was a need for diversity within the university or workplace. However, I don't believe someone should get paid more because of their color or lack of color. So there is a thing that we have in the United States of America that's called the Equal Pay Act, and I'll just go ahead and read a portion of that, what that law mandates. And so mandates equal pay for equal work by forbidding employers from paying men and women different wages or benefits for doing jobs that require the same skills and responsibilities. It doesn't say anything about minorities in this particular Equal Pay Act. However, the African American that was getting paid more was a male, and Mrs. Farmer was a female. So that right there, to me, she should have been awarded the $40,000 for damages because the employer was in fact breaking the rule and breaking this law. The second question refers to Watchmark Comitel Corporation, which is a software company, and they laid off approximately 60 employees and outsourced. And what I mean by outsource is they decided to lay off their employees in America, U.S. citizens, and hire employees from India. And these old employees, Americans here in the United States, were not going to be rewarded their benefits or severance pays until they fully trained the Indians from India. And so what are my thoughts on this particular subject? So I may be a little biased just because I personally had to go through something similar. My husband worked for a credit card company for many, many years. In fact, he worked there straight out of high school. He thought he was going to be able to retire there. I was in nursing school and pregnant at the time, and then he was just laid off. So he was the main provider at that time and provided our health benefits as well. And so those were just cut off and just Just one day he went into work and was told that they were going to be laying off all of the employees, and this is more than 60 people. I don't remember how many people this particular office held, but it was more than 60 people. So I think that it's great that American companies are trying to help out other countries and people of other countries. However, I've always been a believer that we need to help ourselves first before we can go ahead and spread our wealth, I guess you could say. I do understand why companies do this. They take a cheaper route because it's cheaper to pay people from another country, and they think that Americans will pay for their services. Americans, to me, in my opinion, will pay for anything, no matter the price, if the quality is good. So if you have a good quality service, Americans will pay for it. So I think that they should have expanded the services. I know nowadays some companies such as Intel will they have their American employees, and then any middle of the night phone calls or issues that they have, tech issues, they have the customer service employees answer in India because it is daytime there. So that might be something that Watchmark could have done. The third question is present an argument that is easier for employers to comply with diversity in Canada than it is in the United States. So upon reading in the textbook, I found that there were a few incentives, and some people might see these incentives as negative and not incentives, but I try to see the positive in everything, and I think that these are incentives. So one of my examples that I gave was that the employment equity legislation will rate, if you will, a company as A or B, and this rating gets publicized to the public. So like I said, this could be taken as a negative, but if you're doing everything that you're supposed to be doing as a company, you'll be rated correctly, and hopefully that will be a good thing. And so this is supposed to be an accomplishment, not an embarrassment. So if you get a good letter grade, then that means that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Kind of like how here restaurants get rated on the cleanliness, the quality of service, and the quality of food. And it gets put out in front of the windows of a restaurant. That's kind of the same thing here, only they're doing it based off of diversity and the company. Another example was the Canadian Employment Equity Act of 1995. This was put in place, and they can be fined up to $50,000 for not meeting the diversity targets. So to me, that is huge. If you're a company that is trying to thrive or just trying to maintain, you don't want to get fined $50,000. So I think this is a good incentive to help employers have a good diversity within the workplace. Another thing is that the Global and Mail.com, every year they announce their prior year top companies, and they recognize them for being the most diverse. In 2019, 3 of those companies were Air Canada, American Express Canada, and Accenture Inc. And those, I think there was like a top 10, but those I believe to be the top 3. And so that's a good thing to be recognized for. The final question asks for us to pick a type of media and then to answer a series of questions regarding the media. I chose electronic media, prime time TV, which is from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. And the first question basically asks what audience do you think each program targets? Explain and give examples. So the three shows that my family and I watch are 911, The Resident, and Full House. It's coming back. So the audience that I thought for 911 pertains to, I think, a little bit of everybody. I think they're the most diverse show that we watch. They have somebody who's gay, somebody who's a transgender, and somebody who's actually dyslexic, and gets a lot of support from his coworkers. And so each character basically shows what they have to go through in an everyday life kind of situation. For example, the transgender meets a girl and has to basically explain to her that he was once a girl too. And so that was that episode. And so that was a really good episode, and just kind of makes you walk in the life of somebody who has to go through that. Full House predominantly, I think, promotes to maybe a younger crowd. Like I said, it's coming back. My children watch it, are making me relive my childhood memories with Full House. So I think mostly, I think it pertains to kids. I don't think I would watch it if I was an adult. I mean, I am an adult, but I watch it because my kids watch it. The Resident I watch because I'm in the medical field, and although it's very far from what actually really happens, I find it still very interesting, and so I think it pertains more to maybe medical personnel. And so with question number 2, it says, what stereotype and culture messages do you think the programs send? So like I was saying, 911 is probably the most diverse show that we watch, and so I think it pertains to everybody. I think it's more modernized as opposed to Full House, which was, I believe, filmed in the 1980s, and so obviously we, as a country, have evolved more. And so I think that particular show pertains more to a single dad of 3 girls, and I think it still pertains to maybe kids these days, because they may lose their mother as well. That can happen in any decade, right? The Resident, like I said, predominantly people in the medical healthcare field want to watch that. I would say there's maybe one African American doctor and one African American resident who is trying to be a surgeon, and everybody else is pretty much white. So I don't think it's very diverse, that show. Question number 3, what audience do you think the commercials target? So I think that commercials today target more towards a younger crowd, especially during that time period. A lot of talk about STDs and sex, and antiviral drugs one can take if they do get HIV. Also, a lot of infomercials. Buy this now and you can get this for free. So definitely more towards a younger crowd. Number 4 is, what stereotype and culture messages do you think the commercials send? I think they're piggybacking on my question number 3. They're more accepting to all walks of life. The culture message is still advertising the American dream, and that you can achieve that no matter what your background is. So that's it today. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed the video. Bye-bye.